How's it going, everyone? This is Eflex and welcome back to another A Producer's Approach video. In this video we're going to be looking at Drop Tower's song Solar. So if you guys have not watched my videos before, I basically go into a basic structure where I have a intro and personal backstory section. Then after that I have a breakdown analysis section, and then after that I have an outro section just kind of summing up my thoughts and opinions on the song. So this song, Solar by Drop Tower, is actually one of the first songs I found on this channel called Yume. And my friend that also showed me the two friends, he introduced me to this channel, but back before they renamed themselves, or rebranded, I guess you would say. So before they used to be called HD Dub Rave, now they're called Yume. And while I was listening to a lot of, different songs on this promotional channel over the years, one artist that really stuck out to me even after all these years was Drop Tower. Drop Tower, I would say, has the most unique sound that I've heard, especially at this time when he was releasing the song Solar. Like, he had the most unique style because melodic dubstep and drum step wasn't really a thing. Big Room House was kind of the upcoming music within the scene, and there was a lot more heavier dubstep and drum step kind of in the more promotional EDM space on YouTube. So hearing a more melodic take on it was very unique, and I would say that Drop Tower kind of inspired me to make a little more melodic music, but I'll get more into that a little bit later on into the video. But basically, listening to Drop Tower, I wanted to have music on Yume, because he was kind of the artist I kind of looked up to in terms of being able to meet his standard and being promoted on this channel. And it was a pretty hard standard to achieve, but I'll elaborate a little bit more of that later on in this video. But his sound design is really clean and clear, and his style is really melodic and blends a lot of more traditional instrument sounding sounds within his music. So enough of me rambling. We'll kind of get into what I think of Drop Tower's song Solar and why I like it so much as we break it down. So again, this is Drop Tower's song Solar, and we're going into this video. Enjoy. Alright, in this intro section, there's a lot going on. So there's a kind of sub bass sound playing on the bottom, giving some flow to the sub bass. There's an arp kind of playing in the background. There's plucks playing kind of along with the root note of the chord progression. Then there's a piano playing, and then there's kind of a lead sound playing in this intro. Not like a more standard sound like just playing all the time. It kind of comes in and out a little bit, kind of just being introduced in this section. So that's like 5 or 6 different sounds just right off the bat within the first 23 seconds of the song. So all those sounds pretty much set up the kind of more euphoric emotional feeling of the song, but you guys will see a lot more of that as the song progresses. So let's keep going. Alright, so that's kind of the break section here. You have a more halftime type beat that you would hear in like dubstep songs, with a kick on 1, kind of snare on 3. But then you kind of have the arp playing, and then you kind of have that lead sound playing, and then there's also like a little lead, that kind of same lead sound kind of playing a little bit as you heard in the intro. And this kind of lead sound is a kind of almost like arpish type sound. I'm not exactly sure what to call it, but basically the bottom kind of chordal arp bass sound and that lead sound are sound design sounds that are very unique to Drop Tower's style. So it's really cool to hear those sounds, because you'll hear it a lot in his other songs that he made within this time period. And basically, I think this is kind of the build up into the drop section, but we'll get a little bit more into that after we listen to the drop. But it's pretty cool how the percussionary rhythm has a nice flow, but you notice the kick isn't super strong yet. So wait until you hear the drop section and then notice what the kick drum sounds like. All right, so this is the first part of the drop section. Really cool. There's kind of like a space gap for the piano to kind of introduce itself. And what you notice in the build-up section is that there, again, is no percussion really building up. There's kind of like a white noise sweep. But like She Song, Easy Action, you don't really hear that percussion kind of build up that you would hear in a traditional song, where it's like a snare build up or like a snare kick build up. It's just kind of like the sounds playing, and then there's a gap of space, and then the piano goes do do do, and that's really cool because you don't hear that very often. And in this drop section, you kind of notice the arp is kind of playing on the bottom, kind of playing the bass progression while the sub bass is also playing. The kick drum is a little bit fuller and has a little bit more oomph to it. And what I really like about this section is how the lead sound is the piano. So this is one of the first songs where I've heard the piano really being emphasized as the lead sound. To this point, you know, with a lot of other big room songs playing and being made, a lot of the lead sounds are really kind of distorted sounding synths, where this song almost seems a little bit more natural with like a more emphasized piano playing. So I don't know, for me it just kind of brings out the more emotional, euphoric feeling within the song, which is really cool, which is what I really like. And this kind of introduced me to possibly using a piano as the main lead sound in my own music. So this is definitely where this influence of my more kind of euphoric style came from. So it's definitely cool to note as we progress through this drop section. All right, so that was the second part of the drop. Not too much change, but basically you kind of hear the rhythmic percussion, you know, kind of the kick, snare. The snare is a little bit more emphasized in this section. It's in that kind of dubstep halftime rhythm, and that hi-hat is playing a little bit more frequently, so it gives a little extra rhythm and flow into that section. But overall, it's a really nice drop section where you kind of have the emphasis mainly on the piano, and kind of the bass sound isn't as emphasized. And yeah, overall, this section is really cool. And then now it transitions into like the break section, and it transitions from that piano sound to that kind of introductory lead sound. I almost call it like a bell sounding sound, but it's not really a bell. So it's definitely something different, but we'll listen to the song a little bit more now. So it's really cool in this section. It's almost like the piano was playing along with the kind of bell sounding lead sound. I don't know exactly if the piano is playing the chords or is kind of playing along with the lead section, but to me it sounded a little bit like a calm response within this section. But the piano seemed like it was in the similar frequency range as those kind of bell sounding lead, which is really tough to do, balancing two sounds within the same frequency range and making them really clear. I've tried that and failed multiple times, so for Drop Tower to do that in this song really makes it a hard thing to do. So I give him credit for making this part so clean, mixing two sounds within the same frequency range pretty much together to make them sound really clear in this part. Yeah, those two sounds together kind of have a lot of reverb and delay and kind of give a nice break and separation between the drop and what's to come. So it's really cool. Gives a nice break and transition. Alright, so that section is pretty cool. So he actually introduces, when the percussion kind of comes back, he introduces a different synth sound playing along with the chord progression, which is different than the first kind of bell sounding synth. Then he changes it to a different synth sound, which is pretty nice. And then in that percussion, he almost has like the snare almost sounds like an 8-bit kind of crush, that percussion sound that you almost heard in She's song Easy Action, which is pretty interesting. It has like a little bit of an 8-bit influence there, but it's kind of nice how there's like a change in like the lead synth sound, even though the notes are similar and the melody's similar. Like the sound itself kind of changes, but the sound isn't so distinct where you notice like it's a different sound. Like it's the sounds in terms of timbre are so similar that it's hard to notice, which is interesting because now you notice that the piano kind of introduces and is playing in this section. So he kind of switched 3 sounds so far, which is very interesting to note. So we'll keep going. Alright, so in this section, there was a lot more going on. There was a little bit more percussion in this section, more so than in the previous kind of build-up section. In this section, there was the piano playing. Kind of the ARP sound was reintroduced again towards the end of the build-up. And then there's also like an ARP playing in the background. Goes yeah, you kind of notice that to give it a little more flow in the section, since there isn't like a really big traditional snare buildup. And then there's a little bit of white noise. And then there's going to be, I would assume, a gap here before the drop comes back in. So definitely a really long break section, but it's really nice because it really kind of sets the tone and flow of kind of this euphoric feeling song. It's definitely really cool. I like it quite a bit, and the kind of exchange of 3 different lead synths I didn't really notice until now listening to the song, because the timbres are so similar. So that's definitely really cool. And we'll get into the second drop now, so you guys can listen to that. So you notice in this part of the second drop that actually he doesn't have the piano lead playing like he did in the first drop, to start off the second drop, which is a nice change and variation of sound. You notice it's more of a synthetic sound, which isn't bad, but the piano sound you notice has a little more emphasis and is a little bit more in the forefront, where this synth sound kind of blends a little bit more into the mix, which again isn't bad, but it's not as forefront as the piano sound, even with all the effects and stuff on it. But with that synth sound being a little bit further back, you kind of hear the kind of bass chords a little bit more, kind of like the progression and the sound of it itself. There's a little bit more emphasis on that as well, since the mix is I wouldn't say a little bit more balanced, but like is not as much emphasis on the lead synth sound as there is when the piano's playing. And basically the rhythm's pretty similar to the first drop, and the notation of the melody is not too different. It's just a different varied synth being added inside the piano chord. So we'll continue with this drop now. All right, so basically that's the second part of the second drop before the outro. I'll just go back to that section. So basically the piano lead kind of comes back in, and there's the kind of traditional kind of percussion section, but you notice in the background there's kind of like that arp kind of playing back and forth. There's a synth similar that I've used in the past in my own music. It's called an arp water. It's kind of like this old kind of 80s synthesized ARP sound. It just sounds kind of similar to water, but it's like a really fast ARP playing in the background. I like how he used that sound in this part of the drop to add some flow. And then in the middle of this drop, transitioning, like you kind of hear that kind of bell sounding lead for a little bit, just playing a few notes along with the lead sound, which is really cool to have that sound kind of introduce the piano section while it's still playing. And overall has some really good flow, and we'll listen to the rest of the outro and I'll give my final thoughts on the song. So alright, so there wasn't too much to the outro there. So basically I like how he outroed with the piano sound, because that was the current leading lead sound in the second part of the second drop. And there's like a kick to end the song, which I like to do quite a bit, kind of end on a kick. And a lot of his other transitionary sounds, like not like to the build up, but like in the drop itself, he used a lot of crash, like reverse cymbal crashes, which is really cool. I used to do that a lot in my songs as well back in the day. I still do it every once in a while now, but not as often as before. But it gives it a more realistic feel, I guess, in terms of transitioning. So overall, this is Drop Tower's song Solar. This song, in my mind, is like one of the best songs I've heard off Yume or HD Dub Rave. I mean, all of Drop Tower's songs are really good, so if you guys haven't heard his music, definitely check it out. But overall, Solar has like a really nice balance with all the sounds being played. I mean, there's quite a bit going on within the song, so there's nice amount of variation and use of different sounds that are similar in the same timbre, same frequency range. He balanced the mix really clearly. And I just like how he didn't use like really big traditional percussion build-ups, kind of like I do with like a big snare build-up. He had a different approach to building up. not using as much percussion, and that break section was so long, but it was really good for the song to kind of set the tone and set the story and set the feeling of what the song is. So and the last thing I want to say is I really like the use of his piano as the lead sound, and that's what made me use a lot of pianos kind of or guitar sounds as lead sounds in my more recent songs like Serenity and Airwalk. Those two songs were kind of inspired by this song, so that's really cool, just to kind of know where that influence came from. And just to kind of circle back to what I said earlier about how I kind of wished I was like Drop Tower and being promoted on Yume or HD Dub Rave. Personally, for me, I actually have 3 songs that were promoted by Yume, HD Dub Rave, however you know the channel. But the one personal song for me, the style is actually is not exactly the same, but it's similar to the structure and instrumentation that Drop Tower used in the song Solar. So it's almost like coming full circle, me wanting to be promoted on Yume, listening to Drop Tower song and my song being promoted in almost a similar style as Solar and his music. So it's just really crazy how full circle it is. Not to toot my own horn, but it's just really kind of mind-blowing sometimes, just thinking, wow, I've made it this far, to be able to be promoted like Drop Tower, this really good artist that I found a long time ago. So overall, I hope you guys like this video. If you guys haven't checked out Drop Tower's music, definitely check out his music. It's a little bit hard to find, so maybe type in Drop Tower Yume or Drop Tower Music or Drop Tower EDM to find some of his other songs, but definitely highly recommend it. I hope to break down some of his songs in the future, but if I don't, definitely check out his music on YouTube. And if you guys like this video, leave a like, subscribe if you want to, but otherwise, if you liked or disliked anything, leave a comment down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching, guys, and in the future, I think I'm going to stick with videos coming out on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, so that my current schedule, or before Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, was a little bit congested of videos on the weekends. So I want to space them out a little bit better. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, learned something, and definitely check out Drop Tower's music. All right, have a good one, everyone. Peace.